How to selective guppy breeding. Guppies are easy to breed. What's more difficult is to breed them in a way to pass down selective traits onto the next generation, so that they'll display the physical traits you've selected, such as particular colors or tail shape. This is selective guppy breeding, and unlike breeding that occurs spontaneously, selective breeding takes more time and effort to pull through. It also takes methodical planning and investing in aquarium equipment. To breed guppies selectively, you'll need to plan carefully. You'll need to monitor your guppies, put them on a healthy and nutritious diet, and you'll need to invest in aquariums to house multiple generations of guppies and equipment to maintain excellent conditions. If you're ready to embark on a new adventure, I'll walk you through what you need to know about selective guppy breeding and what hurdles you can expect to encounter along the way. Guide to breeding guppies selectively. Since the whole point of selective breeding is to eliminate haphazardness, you need to set up a plan to breed guppies. The endgame here is to create fancy guppy specimens that bear certain traits that you like to see perpetuated for the next generations. But before you can get into the nitty-gritty of breeding these fish, you first need high-quality guppy pairs that may cost more, but display desirable traits that other guppy strains don't. These specimens should not be sourced from a run-of-the-mill pet shop. You may not even be able to find them in pet shops anyway. They should come from experienced and reputable breeders. Selecting a guppy pair. The inexpensive guppy pairs you'll see in pet shops aren't the best quality specimens you can get. With these, you may get some interesting results, but nothing too fancy or out of the ordinary. To produce high-end specimens or show quality guppies, you need prime specimens from the get-go, and the best place to get these from our reputable breeders that have been preserving the purity of strains and perform breeding that accounts for the healthiness of the particular guppy strain. Reputable breeders can offer you guppy couples that are healthy, whose lineage is known and that fall into the fancy guppy or show guppy category. These specimens may be a little more sensitive than their regular guppy counterparts and more expensive, so you may need to be more attentive to their upbringing and care, but they'll also bring you in more profit. I recommend buying 3 females and 2 males. However, do not let them breed randomly, as harem breeding may not deliver you the best results. Draw up a plan as to what traits you want to breed your guppy fish for, whether it's colors, size, tail shapes, or other peculiar aspects, and select the guppy pair that best showcase those traits. Next, let's see the various breeding techniques you can implement to get desirable traits in the next generation of guppy fish. Guppy line breeding. Breeding related guppies to ensure enhanced versions of desirable traits is defined as line breeding. When line breeding is carried out well, it leads to best examples of offspring. The same cannot be said, however, about unrelated guppies that mate, because line breeding produces a specialist line that preserves or carries through the desirable traits envisioned by the breeder. In line breeding there are a few things to be mindful of, namely, it is recommended to allow female guppies to breed with the father, but never male guppies to breed with the mother. In the first case, good results are produced, while in the second case, the chance of results opposite to what you envision are high. Therefore, you should avoid allowing male guppies to breed with the mother. Guppy Out Crossing. Guppy Out Crossing is another breeding technique that you can apply, which requires that you breed unrelated guppies of different lineages. Because with line breeding inbreeding can become a problem, outcrossing can help maintain the health of your guppies and reduce the chances of deformities or faults that may arise with line breeding. Guppy outcrossing can also add desirable traits to your guppy line, an interesting color or tail shape, without worrying about the risks of deformities such as a curved spine. It is recommended that you perform a guppy outcrossing every few generations to maintain the genetic healthiness of your fish. Guppy back crossing. Sometimes, When the progression of a line trait does not go as planned, e.g. unplanned or unforeseen traits find their way into the lineage, it's a good idea to mate your guppy from a line back to its ancestors. Guppy back crossing is essentially used to re-establish traits that have disappeared even though it wasn't your intention, or to eradicate certain traits. This process, like many other breeding processes when selectively breeding guppies, takes time, and you may only achieve success after a few tries. Culling unwanted guppies. I already mentioned that with line breeding, there's an increased chance of deformities, which is why you should sometimes perform an out-crossing here and there. Guppy bent spine or other faults can appear, and if your fish become too sick to have a quality of life, you may need to euthanize them. This is a necessary, albeit painful process. However, you may need to remove certain guppies from breeding if they don't showcase the traits you've been after. You can gift these guppies away or sell them to other breeders or aquarists. Therefore, the process of culling guppies refers to removing guppies with undesirable traits, or with abnormalities, or diseases from the genetic pool. Cost of high-quality guppies. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that when you breed guppies selectively, you need to invest in a high-quality pair. I also pointed out that these guppy strains don't come as cheap, especially that it's recommended to buy them from a reputable breeder. But let's see just how costly fancy guppy strains are. If you do a quick search for guppy fish on eBay or other marketplaces that sell guppy breeding pairs, you'll see prices ranging from $10 to $60 plus for a breeding pair. Needless to say, the guppies on the more expensive end of the spectrum are fancier and display more interesting and unique patterns than the cheaper specimens. Therefore, depending on what your purpose is, breeding show guppies, experimenting with traits, breeding for profit, etc., you may need to invest more in a breeding pair. The cost is also influenced by scarcity. Rare strains are more expensive, the time it took the breeder to achieve that particular type of guppy fish, and the health status of those fish. How many tanks you need for selective guppy breeding. Whenever you're breeding guppy fish, you need extra aquariums, but when breeding show guppies, you'll need plenty of new aquariums. In my experience, you will need at least 8 aquariums, 10 gallons each, to conduct successful breeding. Now this may sound like a lot, and I hear you, it is a lot, but here's the breakdown of it. You need 1 for the parents, the ancestors of the lineage. You'll need 2 more aquariums for first generation males and females, because you need to keep females and males separately to avoid harem breeding, which is uncontrolled breeding, and which won't produce desired results. Then you need another 2 aquariums for second generation males and females, and 2 more tanks for selected males and females. So far, this is 7 aquariums, but you'll need an extra tank for backup in case anything goes amiss, or you need to do a back crossing or whatever. It's always good to have a backup. Bear in mind that guppy breeding can be costly, and you'll need to invest a lot of time and resources before you can make a profit. Beyond the high number of tanks, you'll also need all the equipment that's needed to set up a guppy aquarium, including a heater, a filter, air pump, live plants, etc.